The film opens on January 12, 2011, when three NASA astronauts, Jacinda Fowler, Brian Harper, and rookie Marcus, are in outer space repairing a satellite. The three are engaged in regular small talk when a strange black swarm of unknown objects attacks their space shuttle. Jacinda, the one inside the shuttle, loses consciousness from the impact, and the two men face the direct attack that kills Marcus. Brian manages to get inside the safety cover and notices a strange storm on the surface of the moon, and is ultimately able to bring the shuttle back to Earth. Sometime soon, NASA dismisses the claims of Brian and fires him for negligence. 10 years later, a man is seen breaking into the University of California campus in Irvine to access some data that suggests that the moon's orbit is gradually shifting towards Earth. Around the same time, Jacinda, now the deputy director at NASA, called for an emergency meeting at the Johnson Space Center in Houston to discuss the same anomaly, in which the moon was noticed to be shifting its course. The intruder seen earlier, Casey Houseman, who is a big-time space enthusiast and a conspiracy theorist, tries to make contact with NASA but is denied. He then tries reaching out to Brian too, but to no avail. Brian now lives a life of general defamation as most still hold him responsible for the accident in 2011. NASA figures out that the moon will shatter onto Earth's surface in about 3 weeks' time and also drop debris whenever it gets close enough. Houseman, on the other hand, releases the information about the moon on the internet, which creates a massive buzz of panic among citizens, and NASA announces in a press conference that it is about to send another expedition to fix whatever is wrong. The rocket finds a deep hole on the floor of one of the moon's craters, and when it tries to probe it, that mysterious swarm flies out and destroys the shuttle, killing all the astronauts inside. Jacinda and her team watch all this with utter shock as the moon now gets closer to the Earth, causing massive floods in coastal areas. Brian gets word of the impending disaster on television and immediately tries to contact Houseman, who had earlier tried to tell him similar things. The conspiracy theorist tells Brian that it is his belief that the moon is actually an artificial structure made by aliens with an energy core inside that is now not able to operate correctly, therefore causing the moon to shift its course. Jacinda learns that the 2 minutes of live feed that were cut from transmission during the first Apollo 11 moon landing were not an accident but an intentional cover-up of similar anomalies that it had discovered. She also learns that the U.S. government had prepared an effective EMP detonator to deal with the swarm, but it had never been used. While the U.S. defense considers launching nuclear missiles at the moon, Jacinda orders the EMP weapon to be brought out, and a retired space shuttle be brought back to service, and she calls upon Brian and Houseman for a mission to deal with whatever is wrong inside the moon. What do they find underneath the moon's surface? Just as the three astronauts launch with the EMP gun, disastrous tidal waves crash onto the Space Center, destroying it and killing all workers inside. With the genius of Houseman and the experience of the two astronauts, they are able to make it safely into outer space, where they notice the moon to be scarily close to the Earth's surface. Getting close to the moon, they manage to bait the swarm out to try and blow it up, but the plan fails as they realize that its nature is to attack any living being surrounded by electronics. After closely evading danger, Brian flies the shuttle inside the hole in the moon and realizes that the moon is indeed an artificial superstructure with an energy source in the middle. But the swarm, clearly a foreign object, has been taking away energy from the moon's source, which has been forcing the moon to change its orbit. It was evident that the swarm had been breaking into the moon since the time when Brian had noticed it 10 years ago, and by now, had totally taken hold of it. However, flying deeper into the moon, the astronauts discover large alien-looking spaceships, one of which pulls their spacecraft inside its interior chamber, saving them from certain death. What was the origin of superstructures and AI swarm? Senseless from the impact, Brian is taken to a chamber, where a mysterious consciousness reveals to him the entire truth. Billions of years ago, the forefathers of our human civilization had been living an advanced and peaceful life in a different part of the galaxy, when the artificial intelligence turned against humans and started methodically killing off all humans. Humans had created many superstructures fueled by energy sources and run by AI for the purpose of finding new planets to incubate new human life, and the rogue AI started destroying these structures one after the other. But one such structure was sent away before it could be destroyed, and this became the moon, which enabled human life to re-emerge on Earth in the Milky Way galaxy. Since then, this rogue AI and its swarms have been searching for all such superstructures and, now having found the moon, want to destroy it and all human life. The mysterious consciousness introduces itself as a computer program designed to tell Brian all of this, and also tells him to sacrifice himself for all of humanity by driving the spacecraft into the swarm with the EMP armed and then blowing it up from within. On the space shuttle, Brian explains everything to Jacinda and Houseman and lets them know of his plan of saving the planet. However, Jacinda heavily objects to this and is not ready to let Brian sacrifice his own life. What is the situation on Earth all this while? Meanwhile, on Earth, Brian's teenage son, Sonny, drives a military jeep, taking Jimmy, Jacinda's young son, and his nanny, Kelly, from the NASA base in California to Jimmy's father, and Sonny and his group are intercepted by one such group of rogue youths who take their car away. When the moon's gravitational pull comes in the way of the Earth, it lifts up objects from the Earth's surface while also dropping huge chunks of debris. This disaster on the planet has also wiped out any sense of society and civility, as humans fight each other for basic needs. The three then walk to Aspen and take shelter at the house of Sonny's mother and stepfather. Accompanied by Brenda, Brian's ex-wife, and her husband Tom, the children and teenagers make their way towards safety, avoiding fighting humans and the deadly pull of the moon. But they have to take shelter inside a mountainous tunnel. As the oxygen in the air reduces rapidly, Tom gives his gas mask to his youngest daughter and sacrifices his own life to keep the family safe. While the three astronauts inside the moon argue over the question of sacrificing their lives, the U.S. government decides to launch nuclear missiles at the moon. Army General Doug manages to put a stop to the mission by taking his superior general hostage, showing faith in his ex-wife and not wanting to kill her with missile strikes. Does the Earth and human civilization finally survive? Realizing that he has the most to prove to himself and the world, and the least to lose on Earth, Houseman decides to sacrifice himself and save all of humanity. He enters the rover with the armed bomb and flies it into the swarm, killing it by detonating the EMP. Brian and Jacinda then safely return to Earth, where the disasters have stopped as the moon is now back to its usual self. In a final scene, the AI on the moon is shown to have kept a copy of Houseman's consciousness, and he is now part of the moon. It then puzzlingly tells him, "We should get started," and when he asks with what, the end credits roll.